Good evening, Council. Bonsoir. Sego. We'll begin our meeting tonight with a moment of personal reflection. Thank you. Councillor Gardner, will you please lead us in the singing of our national anthem?
Oh, Canada, our home and native land, true patriot love in all of us command. Car ton bras sait porter l'épée, il sait porter la croix. Ton histoire est une épopée des plus brillants exploits. God keep our land glorious and free. Oh, Canada, we stand on guard for thee. Oh, Canada, we stand on guard for thee.
Thank you. We acknowledge that we are gathered on the traditional territory of the Haudenosaunee peoples, the Mohawks of Akwesasne, the original keepers of this land. As settlers, we are grateful for the opportunity to meet here, and we thank all the generations of people who have taken care of this land for thousands of years. Roll call, please, Madam Clerk.
Mayor Justin Towndale.
Present.
Councillors Claude McIntosh.
Present.
Dean Hollingsworth.
Present.
Modeste Dupel.
Present.
Sarah Good.
Present.
Caroline Hébert.
Présente.
Councillors Elaine McDonald. Present. Sid Gardner.
Here.
Denis Sabourin.
Present.
Todd Bennett.
Present.
Fred Gunjo.
Présent.
Thank you. Any additions, deletions, or amendments to the agenda as presented tonight? Councillor McDonald.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I would like to pull the question of the Brookdale submission to the connecting links into communications from consent, please.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Any further amendments? Councillor Ngunjo.
Mr. Mayor, I wish to express my disappointment with the trend towards lumping many financial important items under consent report items. This seems to almost suggest that we should be rubber stamping those items, something that we should not do. So,
Interest. Okay, seeing none. Can I have a motion to move in committee of the whole, please? Councillor Gardner, Councillor Dupel, all in favor? Carried. Thank you. Have a motion for the adoption of the minutes from the October 10th meeting. Councillor Dupel, Councillor Good, any discussion on the minutes? Seeing none. Councillor Hollingsworth? No. Okay. Okay, all in favor? Carried. Thank you. Madam Clerk?
So we're going to start with our consent items. PAC Report 1, Bellwood Ridge Draft Plan of Subdivision Amendment. The action recommended is that Council approve the amendment to the draft plan of subdivision for Bellwood Ridge subdivision as described in this report, that the draft plan includes phases 5, 6, 7, 8, and 9 as described, that the amended draft plan of subdivision be replaced with a new draft plan as described in this report, that the new draft plan as submitted includes the southern part of Stonebridge subdivision, and that this amended draft plan of subdivision be subject to the fulfillment of the draft plan conditions as shown in Appendix A of this report. PAC Report Number 2, 10 Tollgate Road East, Proposed Zoning Bylaw Amendment, with the recommendation that Council approve the proposed rezoning of the property from highway commercial to community commercial with the site-specific exceptions listed in this report. Tender 23, T49, Snow Clearing and Ice Control, various departments, with a recommendation that this tender be awarded for one winter season, 23-24, with the option to renew for one additional year to Green Acres Snow Removal from Cornwall for items A, B, C, D, and E. $580, $800 per occurrence, $1,100, $600, and $850 per occurrences. And RFP terms of reference 23P24 consulting services for Brookdale Avenue, with a recommendation that that council receive this report.
Motion. Counselor Good, Counselor Bennett, all in favor? It's carried. Thank you.
Under the unfinished business and unfinished business listing, there's only the unfinished business listing, Mr. Mayor, for adoption.
Motion. Counselor McDonald, Counselor Bennett, any discussion? All in favor? It's carried. Thank you.
And going back to our items that were moved for discussion, the first one is MTO Connecting Links Program Intake 9 Project Application. With a recommendation that council approve the following. The council endorse the submission of an application to the 24-25 MTO Connecting Links Program. B, that the project submitted for the funding program be the detailed design of Brookdale Avenue from 7th Street West to 14th Street West. C, that the associated bylaw authorizing the submission of a funding application to the 24-25 MTO Connecting Links Program be included in the agenda for November 24th regular council meeting. And D, that if the city is successful in receiving funding through the program, that the mayor and clerk be authorized to execute all documents to complete this matter through the bylaw to be passed on November 14th.
Thank you. Motion. Counselor McDonald, seconded by Counselor Gardner. Discussion. Counselor McDonald.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'm scrambling madly trying to find the map, and I can't. I think I pulled it out and put it somewhere safe. But my question's pretty simple. I think that Brookdale Avenue, people are challenged to find a safe, convenient way to cross the street, and especially in the area of 7th Street, when we have so many people living west of Brookdale, and the Benson Center is on the, I think I got the east and west mixed up there, but Brookdale separates a huge swath of the population from a really popular center, and there's just no safe way to cross it in that neighborhood unless you cross at 2nd or else go up to 9th. And I'm hoping that Mr. Fothrop can tell us that one of the aspects of this project for which we're applying for money might be a pedestrian crossing right around where 7th Street meets Brookdale.
Mr. Fothrop?
Through you, Mr. Mayor. So as part of the environmental assessment that we're completing along Brookdale Avenue between 7th and 14th, so this is applying for the MTO to fund the detailed design of that project. We are issuing an RFP for an environmental assessment for that corridor. As part of that RFP, a number of recommendations are going to be made for each intersection between 7th to 14th. One of the big items or large criteria is improving the pedestrian infrastructure along Brookdale Avenue, particularly between 7th and 9th Street. And so it depends on the intersection that's proposed for 7th Street, but pedestrian crossing is certainly an element that is going to be considered in the recommended design.
Okay, I'm very reassured. Thank you for that. And just a follow-up question. So the environmental assessment that we're calling for an RFP to perform, we passed that, didn't we, as council already?
Through you, Mr. Mayor, so we've passed supporting an application to the MTO for funding the environmental assessment.
Okay.
So later in the agenda is issuing the RFP for the environmental assessment. This report would take that environmental assessment and do the detailed design so that it would be construction ready.
Very good. Thank you very much.
Counselor Hollingsworth.
Thank you, Your Worship. Quick question, Mr. Fothrop, and I don't recall seeing it in the report, but I recall there was some discussion on the traffic circle. Is there going to be any changes potentially to that traffic circle, or is it steady as she goes and we're just going to kind of move up the road and leave the traffic circle as it is?
Through you, Mr. Mayor, each intersection is being reviewed. A number of options will be prepared for each intersection, and a series of recommendations will be made. So it's included in the review being completed as part of the environmental assessment.
Now, one other question with regards to that traffic circle, and you can correct me if I'm wrong. Originally, people had suggested, well, why don't you just redo the signs and it becomes a roundabout? And what was said to me was the nature, the size of that particular traffic circle, because it's so big, generates speeds that are in excess to what a typical roundabout would be, and therefore you can't just reconfigure the signs and say, there, everything's fine. Does that make sense?
Through you, Mr. Mayor, that's correct. So the geometry of the circle is quite large, which lends itself to high speeds. So roundabout geometry is quite small. Traffic is naturally calmed. In a traffic circle, the geometry is quite large. Through traffic has the right of way, and thus you can operate it in 60 kilometers an hour. Whereas in a roundabout, you're naturally slowed, then you're in the roundabout.
Right.
Yeah.
Sorry. I guess, Your Worship, I just point that out because potentially, depending on how the project shakes itself out, there's a perception amongst the community, who are not traffic and civil engineers, that, well, just redo the signing and everything's fine. And it's not quite that simple. And a number of my civil engineering friends expressed that to me, as did some of our management staff as well. So I guess depending on how it shakes out, I would hope that we explain to the public that it's just not necessarily a matter of sticking a few signs up and everything's hunky-dory. Thank you.
Further questions or comments? Councillor McIntosh?
Yeah, what's the cost, the submission, what were we looking at money-wise?
Through you, Mr. Mayor, so we were granted $300,000 for the environmental assessment in 2021, 2022 application. This is for $500,000.
Okay. Was, just through you, Mr. Mayor, did this come up at AMO? Was there a meeting with one of the ministers regarding this application?
I didn't have a chance to attend AMO this year. However, the delegation that was in place was in regard to one of the projects on Brookdale. I believe Mr. Fothrop or Councillor Good can provide more info on that.
Through you, Mr. Mayor, yes. So we did include in our presentation to the Minister of Transportation that the City of Cornwall is going to be looking to make future applications for the Connecting Links program for Brookdale Avenue, and we expressed the importance of the program to the city. So it was included in our AMO delegation.
Okay. About 7 years ago, the realignment of Brookdale Avenue came to council, and the environmental assessment was put at just under $1 million. Council turned it down. When you talk about the environmental assessment now, that doesn't include the Brookdale traffic circle, does it?
Through you, Mr. Mayor, it includes 7th to 14th, so it includes the traffic circle.
Okay, so we got a big discount, because previous, I recall, that discussion was a very expensive, you weren't the general manager then.
Through you, Mr. Mayor, that environmental assessment wasn't as high as,
Yeah.
I think it was 250,000.
Okay,
Yeah.
okay, thanks.
Further questions, comments? Councillor Gunjo?
Mr. Mayor, there is an opportunity I want to speak of on this matter, which refers to funding for connecting links. May we take this opportunity to consider making Brookdale Avenue a true entrance way to the city by creating a better connection with Highway 138, Cornwall Center Road, and Brookdale. Right now, visitors coming from Ottawa abruptly land on Cornwall Center Road. This is not a proper entrance way from Ottawa. At least additionally, signals there can be a good way to welcome people coming from east and west of 401 will make our community an even more welcoming place. Thank you.
Thank you, Counselor. Further questions, comments? Seeing none, all in favor? It's carried. Thank you. Madam Clerk?
Our next report is Ontario Regulation 28409, with a recommendation that council receive this report.
Council, motion? Counselor Bennett, Counselor Gardner, discussion. Any discussion on this item? Counselor Gunjo.
Mr. Mayor, this item may be routine, but it is required by law. It is complex. It will be very helpful if it could be the subject of an oral presentation in order to help make it to make a better decision.
Ms. Bailey?
Through you, Mr. Mayor, I can provide a summary of the purpose of the report. This report comes to council as a compliance report for Ontario Regulation 28409. And the reason for that is because, like many municipalities, the city continues to prepare its budget on a traditional funding basis where revenue equals expenditures. But of course, corporations all have future liabilities, but we don't budget for our future liabilities. We budget for them annually as they come up in our, as we're doing our budgets each year. So in order to comply with this regulation, a report is brought to council so that council understands those future liabilities. So the first one would be post-employment benefits expense. That would include liabilities such as a vacation, sick bank, WSIB, and retiree benefits. And then solid waste, landfill closure, and post-closure costs. So council is aware of what the landfill liability is in the future. So this report, what it does is it informs the reader of our subsequent financial statements of that liability. And then also as items that we don't include on our, through our budget is amortization of our capital assets. And so that's detailed in this report as well. And all of these items have an impact on the city's accumulated surplus. And the effect for 2023 is that our annual accumulated surplus would increase by about $44,600,000. So through you, Mr. Mayor, if there are any other further questions?
Good for me. Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Thank you, Mr. Bailey.
You're welcome.
Further questions or comments on this item? Okay, seeing none, all in favor? Carried, thank you.
Bylaws 2023, 96, and 97 listed on the agenda as being presented to council for adoption.
Motion? Councillor Hollingsworth, Councillor Dupel, all in favor? Carried, thank you. Reports from standing advisory, special, and ad hoc committees of council. Okay. Councillor Good.
Yes, so the Livillage Committee has been meeting much more regularly. We had a meeting actually last Tuesday, and we're anticipating the reconstruction of Montreal Road. And so we've requested a meeting with administration to discuss how we can enhance the beautification of that area. And we're looking at preparing for a new strategic plan to create some more direction for that group. So it's going very well. Thank you.
Thank you. Any further reports? Okay, seeing none.
We are now presenting the confirming bylaw to council for adoption.
Motion, Councillor Bennett, Councillor Gardner, all in favor? Carried. Motion to adjourn. All right. Yes, we-
Have we omitted the interim control bylaw, the opportunity to make a motion?
That was part of the bylaws that we just passed, Councillor McDonald.
Thank you.
Yeah, and we did do the unfinished business listing, I heard that as well. While this meeting is short, we do have to return back into camera. I'd like to remind council we have some items to discuss there. Motion to adjourn. Councillor Hollingsworth, Councillor Bennett, all in favor? Carried. We'll take 5 minutes and then we'll return in camera. Thank you.
Bonsoir.